Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me and happy Monday. Today is a day. For those of you who have never joined me here on a Monday before on one of these videos, Monday is where I tell ghost stories that my subscribers have sent in to me and we create a look kind of based on the way to die. And yeah, sometimes the stories are scary, sometimes they're emotional, and sometimes they're funny. So if you have any ghost stories, paranormal experiences, weird experiences, it doesn't have to be paranormal. You didn't have to see a ghost flying through your wall. You know, it could have been, turns out it was your mum knocking on your door. Anything, just send it to this email address right here, and hopefully I'll get to read it out here on this channel, or you can send it in the form of audio if you want to write it down and then read it out to me, or video yourself filming it if you want to do it that way. And this series is very much based on Bailey Sarian's Murder Mystery and Makeup Monday, where she combines two things that she loves. I mean, I'm not sure she loves murder, you know, true. She likes true crime. Who doesn't? And mixes those two together. So I absolutely love paranormal and horror and ghost stories and all this. So I'm mixing it with my makeup. Anyway, go and check it out. I always leave a link below to her channel in the description box. If you don't know who she is already, I'm very sure you already do. So today's way of dying. I wanted to make this look and I couldn't think of a way to die. So the way I die today. So here's the way I died, right? It was very slapstick, like old cartoon style, where, you know, someone's trying to kill me, like Bugs Bunny and that guy. And you know, sometimes when they hold up binoculars, but it's actually like dynamite. Does that ever happen? You know what I mean? They're like, whoa, and then it's like two fuses about to blow up. It blew up in my eyes, and that's how I died. But it didn't explode in my head, it just my eyes. So I'm going to do very dark, very dark. I'm going to use a palette that I'm sure you're familiar with, the Sorceress palette by Jolie Beauty. Okay, so let's get straight into it, shall we? This story is called Leprechaun in the Woods. That scares me already. Have you guys seen the video of it's meant to be like a gnome, like shuffling across the street? I'll find it. I'll have to find it. By the way, I'm not wearing rings today because my hands are so dry and I don't know why that means I can't wear rings, but you know what I mean? I just filmed 2 other videos and my desk is just a mess. Okay, so it says, "Hi Robert, I love you and your channel. Thank you so much. This isn't a ghost story. Just a weird one my dad used to tell me that happened to him. My dad was a skeptic. He didn't believe in spirits or mythical creatures, but he always swore blind that what he saw was real, even 40 years on. When my dad was young, around 14 years old, he was in the woods with some friends. They had built a hangout at the foot of a hill with sheets tied to trees and chairs like a little camp. They had ran out of water, so my dad said he would go and get some. He leaves the camp and starts to head up the hill. When he was about halfway up the hill, he feels something staring at him, so he looks up. At the top of the hill is what he describes as a leprechaun staring back at him. He was about 2 to 3 foot tall, with a funny outfit and hat and pointy shoes. My dad froze and just stared at him. The leprechaun stared back. My dad said the look on his face was scared, like a rabbit caught in the headlights, as if he had been caught but wasn't meant to be seen. After a few more seconds had passed, my dad started to take a few steps back and turned to shout for his friends to come and see. When he looked back around, the leprechaun was gone. He ran back to his friends and they laughed, which is understandable because it's a bloody leprechaun. But he swears blind this is what he saw. His story never changed and he wasn't on anything to make him imagine it. Ooh. That scares me. That scares me more than like a ghost or like you know, oh, there was someone floating there and then they disappeared. Like, because at least a human, you can explain, you know what it is. Whereas with like a leprechaun or like a gnome that was like in this other video, it's like, how do you explain this? Okay, so let's listen to our first audio story. This is called The Haunted Theatre. And if you want to record your story, please go ahead and send it in. It does help to write it down first and then read it.
Hi Robert, thanks so much for choosing my story. I just wanted to say hello and thank you from Ontario, Canada. I'm a drama, history, and religion teacher, and I'm constantly trying to find ways to fit Ghosts and Makeup Mondays into the curriculum. So here's one of my stories. I was cast in a local production of West Side Story at the time, and I was a drama student. The show was going to be in a 100-year-old theater that had just reopened. The theater was massive. It was beautiful and super ornate. The balcony seats even still had their original crushed velvet upholstery. I was so excited. The theater, however, had a dark past. Apparently, decades before, a man had hanged himself in the tech booth of the theater. What we soon realized was that he also never left that booth. There was a wooden owl that sat on the ledge of the window that looked out onto the stage from the tech booth. The man was very protective of this owl, and we were warned by the owners that he did not like it to be moved or touched. If someone did displace this owl, then things would go horribly wrong, and we found that part out the hard way. Our stage manager moved the owl so that our tech crew did not have it in their vision. We were halfway through a full dress rehearsal when all of the power in the building suddenly shut off. We were on the stage, and we never moved the owl again. Other strange things started happening as well. For instance, there was a light that hung from the ceiling on the stage. This light never, ever stopped swinging back and forth, back and forth. No other light ever moved, nor was there any air flowing by it. Our dressing rooms were in the basement of the theater. There were obviously no windows, and it was often dark. Multiple castmates reported they would hear their names being called only to realize that they were alone. One morning, I was the first cast member down in the dressing rooms. I got an eerie feeling, and all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I was suddenly so terrified that I would hear my name, so I started singing my solo song as loud as I could as I ran up the stairs and waited till more people came. The last and perhaps scariest occurrence was in a room we called the dungeon. This was a room with a very heavy door that was at the very end of the hallway our dressing rooms were on. This room was dark, had no lights, a short ceiling, and in the middle of the room sat one solitary chair. We thought that this was odd, so one of the male cast members bravely went in and moved the chair against the wall by the door. We totally forgot about it until the next day, when we needed an extra chair for the makeup artists. So we opened the door to grab the chair from the dungeon. But when we opened the door, the chair was gone. We grabbed a phone to use as a flashlight, only to see that the chair had returned to the center of the room. All the doors get locked at night, so there was no way any of us could have moved it. We all stood there looking at it, unsure of what to do. Eventually, we grabbed the chair anyway because we really did need it. The next morning, the chair had again made its way back to the center of the dungeon room on its own. Eventually, we had a medium come in, and we made an evening out of it. She confirmed the tech booth ghost, said there was a presence on the stage, and that there was energy coming from the basement where the dungeon room was. I've done another few musicals in that building, but I've never returned to the dungeon or touched the owl again. Keep up the amazing content. I'm the one out of all of my friends that's always into makeup, so whenever someone asks me for tips, I always refer them back to your channel. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was so, you know what? You almost had yourself a Phantom of the Opera moment there, didn't you? There is something terrifying, though, about theatres. Like, even if I could sit in a full packed, like, old style theatre and still be a little bit creeped out. And not just because it's like an old building. Like, I've been to like old castles and stuff and felt absolutely fine. But just theatres, I'm just like, Thank you so much for sharing your story. That was perfectly read. Thank you. I'll put this on my eyes quickly because I need to read the next one. I need to concentrate. Okay, so our next story is called Abuelita Returns. Ooh, I don't like people returning. I feel a bit disorganized today. Sorry. Okay, so hi. Hello from the skies, Robert. I'm not dead. I'm a flight attendant. Oh, I was like, oh my god, a ghost has written and have to work during this pandemic. Oh, well, thank you so much and please be safe. My grandma passed away about 20 years ago when I was 15. She was an old, strict Mexican Abuelita. She passed while changing my cousin's diaper in what would later be my room. Once, she visited me in my dreams to tell me she'd been traveling, especially to New York. which I guess was somewhere she'd always wanted to visit. The day before she passed, my cousin asked her why she preferred my cousin over her, who was 1 year older than her. They were about 9 and 10. My grandma said she would talk to her about it the next day, so we never got an answer. We moved house about 6 months later. One night, I woke up in the new house. I now had to share a room with my sister to find that someone is standing near my sister's head. It took a couple of moments for my eyesight to adjust. I clearly saw my grandma standing in a nightgown and she was talking to my sister. My sister was unaware. She was sound asleep. I got spooked, turned on a light, and she was gone. I now regret turning on the light just so I could see her a little more. The next day, I went to tell the story to my mum, but as I got there, my sister was already there saying, "Abuelita came to visit me last night. She says she was sorry for not being able to answer my question I asked her about my cousin. Thanks for all you do as I'm learning how to better utilize my makeup correctly and have it look more natural." Thank you so much. Thank you. I wonder why I want the answer. I'm sorry. I want to know. I want to know. That's so cute though, that oh, I'm traveling. I get to travel now. I love that. I wonder what that's like. Thank you so much for your story. Now, I'm going to finish up the eyes. And as is custom, we have Marcus reading us a story. Marcus, please.
Hello, and here is the first story. Dreaming of Orion. Trigger warning, this story discusses the death of a child. Hi Robert, I love your videos and I'm currently binge watching your ghost stories and makeup videos. I have a matching scar on my eyebrow and you inspire me to embrace it and accept it as it is. I used to have a friend named Orion. Orion and I played together our whole little lives. One morning, when we were 8 years old, Orion's mother was doing laundry. She let Orion play outside, and he ended up slipping into the nearby pond, fell unconscious into the water, and unfortunately drowned. A couple of years had passed before I started dreaming of him. They persisted almost every night for a week or so. The dreams were so realistic that I could see how Orion looked, but as if he was 2 years older. It was as if I could see what he looked like if he was still alive and growing with me. Each dream was in the setting of a place I no longer go to. It was as if I was recreating memories we had already had together. One night I woke up from that dream very suddenly, and I had tears on my face, and my body was sweating feverishly. I wiped my face and looked to the window to see the moon. What I saw was not a full bright moon, but with the silhouette of a dark shadowy figure standing near the end of my bed. Something compelled me to know it was Orion. These dreams did not stop until I was about 14. I believe he watches over me and we have a special connection. Sometimes when I think about it, I want to believe that he was my soulmate in some form. This second story is called Unwelcome Visitors in Sunset Views Cemetery. Hi Robert, love your channel, I love the feedback you give and especially your chuckles here and there, it brightens my day. This was about 13 to 14 years ago, but I still remember it as if it was yesterday. My story takes place at Sunset Views Cemetery in El Cerrito, California. It's a beautiful, huge cemetery with lots of history on a hillside that looks out over the San Francisco Bay Area. My grandparents are buried there, and since the time I could drive, I have gone regularly to visit their graves and pay my respects. One particular August afternoon, I had been in the area and was with my friend. I had taken her up there with me. I didn't think it was weird at the time, as this particular friend of mine had a hobby of visiting cemeteries. Sorry, I can't say that word. Graveyards from now on. Just to take in the beautiful views and look around at the neat and intricate gravestones. After we had visited my parents' graves, which were deep into the graveyard, at the very back, at the top of the hill, we were heading down towards the exit when my friend discovered there was a patch of lawn off to the side with what seemed to be older graves. The grass was overgrown, the tombstones were crumbling, and some were even so damaged that you couldn't read them anymore. I figured that this may have been part of the original graveyard, which had started back in the early 1900s. She asked if we could stop and take a look, and I obliged. I parked a little down the hill away from this patch of lawn, so we had a little trek And as we got closer, I remember my entire body slowing down and eventually seizing. My friend continued ahead of me. I don't know what it was that brought me to panic, but I told my friend, "Dude, I don't think we should go over there." And then all of a sudden, a loud boom took place, which sounded like a bomb had gone off or something huge had fallen. We jumped up and ran straight back to my car, where we found my passenger side window completely blown out, with glass both inside and outside of the car. I called my mother completely hysterical and told her what happened. She was sure that somebody must have done it. Somebody must have thrown a rock at your window, she said. But the thing was, we were the only ones there. We know nobody was around, and my car was in plain sight. We definitely would have noticed someone. The truth was nobody was there. Nobody that we could see, anyway. I hope to see you next week for Makeup and Ghosts on Tuesdays with me, Marcus, and Robert providing his latest mermaid look. Thank you, bye.
They're not always mermaid looks. It'll be the week after, not next week. Every other week. Come on, Marcus. Come on now. Thank you so much for those stories. The first one, oh my god, that really got to me for a little bit. That was so cute. What a nice idea that, you know, you were kind of destined to be together, and it's like, you know, he's still not giving up on it. I think I've asked this before, but if you could marry a ghost, like if everyone, like if it was just like fact that ghosts existed and they like walked around and went to work and stuff like that, would you marry a ghost? Okay, so say you moved into a new house, right? And, well, it's your new house, so the house is pretty old, and you discover that it's actually haunted by, let's say like it's a huge house that's now apartments. Let's say it's haunted by a person who worked there, who was maybe staff there, and they were like haunting you, but were like really open about it, you know, were like, they weren't invasive, they weren't like rude, they weren't like throwing your like cutlery everywhere. And you know, that's just life now. Like ghosts can, you know, free reign to live where they lived before. Would you like relationship with a ghost? It's just so fucking dumb, sorry. Would you relationship with a ghost? Let me know down below. Say yes, I would relationship, or no, I wouldn't relationship. Is this our last story? Oh, this is our last story. I'm not done yet. Okay, so I did a bit of touching up here and adding stuff. This is our last story and I'm barely finished. What's happening? So our last story for today is called The Old Abattoir. It says, "Hi Robert, I love your videos and I binge watch them all the time. Thank you so much. I really, really greatly appreciate it. Thank you. My story is about my experience in my current home. It is a new build in Wales. A slaughterhouse used to stand where my house is. That's the only backstory I know, and I already found that a little bit creepy. On my second night there, I woke up to the strong smell of deodorant. My deodorant can is usually on my bedside table, but I found it on the other side of the room. My door was locked as it had been all night. I was shaken up, but after that I calmed down. Every night I slept in that room, I had this overwhelming sense of dread. At around 3 a.m. one night, of course, the witching hour, I woke up to the distinct feeling of somebody grabbing my arm. I jolted awake to find no one there. That morning, I was going to take a shower when I noticed 3 huge, deep scratches wrapping around from my back to my hip. I immediately bawled my eyes out. I was terrified. After that, the incidents had stopped apart from the panic attacks and a few little scratches here and there, and I still have to sleep with the lights on at 18 years old. Well, all the incidences had stopped until a few weeks ago. My sister was in my room and she felt a hard grip on her thigh. She left, and as soon as I had fallen asleep, I felt soreness on my arm. When I looked down, I had realised I had a ghastly bruise. I have no idea how I got it. I'm currently due to move out of this house. I feel like me and my family are in danger if we continue to live here. First of all, I'm glad you're leaving. That sounds awful. Here's the thing, you never know with new builds, like, you never know with new builds what was there before. Like, I'm in a new build right now. My house is like where an old hospital used to be. It's built on top of a hospital, and around it was like abandoned houses. So like, just because it's new doesn't mean the land is, the house is. Well, I hope you and your family are safe, and I wish you all the luck and trying to get out of there. So whack on some lashes and we will be done. Okay, so this is our finished, blown up by cartoon style, fake dynamite, no, real dynamite, fake binoculars look. So contoured with a bit of grey, and I don't know why I put gloss on the lid, but there you go. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. I will be back not next week, but the week after. These are every other week now. You can go ahead and send your ghost stories right here to this email address. Ghost stories, other stories, stories about ghosts, paranormal, weird people. Weird people in your neighbourhood. Thanks again for joining me, and I will see you very soon. Bye.